Segundo. This is the November 2nd regularly scheduled City Council meeting. We're conducting this evening's meeting as a hybrid. Council is back in the dais and the public is here via Zoom. Chamber is currently closed to the public except for special presentations and public communications. You may view and listen to this meeting live on Spectrum Channel 3, AT&T Uverse Channel 99, or El Segundo TV at youtube.com. And let's see, council members, we don't need to cover that. We're good there. Madam City Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Absolutely. Councilmember Giroux.
Here.
Councilmember Nickel.
Here.
Councilmember Perstock.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Here.
Mayor Boyles.
Here.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, this evening, do we have Reverend? Yep, Reverend Dinah Ferguson is there. I see her on Zoom. She's going to lead us in the invocation. She's with St. Michael Episcopal Church. And then we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by Councilmember Nichols. So if you could please rise.
Let us pray. Holy God, we recognize your presence among us this evening, even as we gather virtually. We give you thanks for the technology that allows us to gather and to do the work of the city, and also for the dedication of our council members in this time. They have undertaken
Reverend
a
Ferguson,
duty of...
we cannot hear you.
Tell me why. I say that I am unmuted.
He is unmuted on the Zoom.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, Mona, we cannot hear Reverend Dina.
Reverend, if you can hear this, we're going to
So-
go to the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilmember Nickel, and we'll come right back to you.
Excuse me for 1 minute, Tracy.
Reverend Ferguson, we're ready if you are.
Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Let us pray. Holy God, we recognize your presence among us, even as we gather virtually. We give you thanks for the technology that allows us to gather and to do the work of the city, and also for the dedication of our council members in this time. They have undertaken a duty of service to our city and our residents. Remind them that as technology assists them and skill and reason are demanded of them, it is on you whom they must rely. Guide them in all they do, encourage them as they serve, be with them tonight in their discussions and decisions, help them to lead the people of El Segundo into a future full of hope. And remind all the people of El Segundo that our council members cannot do it all, and they cannot do it alone. Inspire every member of our city to be involved in helping them to make El Segundo a better place. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Dinah Ferguson, and thank you, Councilmember Nickel. All right, we're going to go right into special presentations. First one is the LA Hyperion Sewage Treatment Wastewater Spill and Recovery Update. And Mr. Mitnick.
Public Works Director Elias Sassoon will handle this item.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. This is an update regarding Hyperion as of today. With respect to the reimbursement, the total amount paid is almost $3.4 million, and a total of 2,739 checks have been issued so far. Almost 80% of all the requests been processed, which means only 20% is remain to be processed. With respect to the Hyperion maintenance, Hyperion is performing a routine cleaning of one of their primary tanks, which is started yesterday, and this maintenance will continue through this Friday. basically, this is to maintain the sludge collector in the bottom of the tank. If you would, it's a mechanism by which it's like a push broom, which cleans up the sludge in the bottom of the tank, and that's what they plan to do. So we expect the work to be completed by Friday, but if for whatever reason that is not done, they will let us know and we let the public know. With respect to the odor complaints, for the last 2 weeks, the number of complaints varied from 0 to 8 per day. That is 0 to 8 complaints per day, for an average of 3.5 complaints per day. And that's what I have, and I'll be glad to answer any question that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Sassoon. Council members.
Mr. Sassoon, for the Regional Water Board number 4, do we have, is there an additional investigation going on for the onshore effects of the issues at Hyperion? I know the notice of violation for offshore effects was given. Do we know the status of any continuing investigation?
Yes, sir. The Water Board, they made a demand and they ordered Hyperion for daily sampling of the water. But as things got better and the quality of the sampling showed that the samples really are good and they came out to be of a high quality, the Hyperion requested the Water Board to remove that demand and that request, and that was granted. So other than ordinary and normal sampling that is required per their permit, Hyperion is no longer needs to provide any more sampling on offshore at this time.
And not so much the sampling. I mean, is the Water Board investigating violations insofar as the water sent up to West Basin, the flooding at the plant, or the specific odor effects on the city of El Segundo? The previous notice of violation that they sent to Hyperion dealt only with pollution into the ocean and not any of the effects onshore or to West Basin with the polluted water. Do we have any word on if that investigation is continuing?
The Water Board does not get involved in the air with respect to the quality of water. Their citation that they have issued is partially due to the fact that the sampling for the onshore water was what they were. But with respect to the air, they leave that up to AQMD for pursuing those odor complaints and violations.
Do they have any jurisdiction regarding the fouling of the plant itself, so the subsequent flooding inside Hyperion? Is there any violation that's in their purview that would be there, or would that be a broader environmental question for a different agency?
Well, yeah, they are involved because they want to make sure that whatever was caused, and they're also investigating what was the cause of this unfortunate incident has been taken care of, and they are also involved in the process as these investigations are ongoing and the results. So they'll be watching to make sure that this incident does not happen again. So they've got an interest in making sure that the right actions are taken, and this will never happen again.
Thank you.
Any other comments? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sassoon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Councilmember Nickel, who's going to read the, I'm sorry, which one do you have again, Scott? Do you have the United Hate Against? Okay, United Against Hate Week. Councilmember Nickel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I believe we have a member of the DEI committee, Christabel, present. So we got to put our masks back on. And I hope my voice is not muffled. Hi, Christabel. So this proclamation, whereas the Los Angeles County is home to a diverse population of more than 10 million residents, including Alaska Natives, American Indian, Asian Pacific Islanders, Black, Latin, and White. United Against Hate Week, November 14th through November 20th, 2021, will celebrate LA County's diverse history, culture, and traditions. while educating residents on the importance of supporting social justice, inclusion, and safety for all. And whereas the goal of the week is to draw local residents, students, school, civic, faith, and business leaders together to raise awareness about how to stop hate and promote inclusion. United Against Hate Week recognizes the county's diversity, strengthens partnerships to help address hardships faced by victims of hate acts, and elevates every community and the unique ways they make the county a better, more inclusive, and welcoming place to live. And whereas United Against Hate Week symbolizes El Segundo's dedication to preventing and opposing hate and intolerance in our community, and educating residents on the importance of compassion and cooperation as key strategies for unlocking, understanding, and embracing differences. Now, therefore, the mayor and members of City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, hereby proclaim support for the week of November 14th through November 20th, 2021, as United Against Hate Week, and express our dedication in preventing and opposing hate and intolerance in our community. And here to accept the proclamation is DEI Committee Member Christabel Valena. Christabel, thank you.
Yes, thank you. On behalf of the City of El Segundo's DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, I'm honored to accept the proclamation. We're so proud that El Segundo stands united against hate, along with many other cities throughout the county of LA, the state of California, and beyond. The DEI is very proud of our city's commitment to building a safe and inclusive community. United Against Hate Week starts Sunday, November 14th, and ends Saturday, November 20th. Our DEI committee is looking forward to taking action in big and small ways throughout the week. Please stay tuned for more information on community-wide activities, and we invite you all to join us as we stand in solidarity and united against hate. You're also welcome to visit their website, unitedagainsthateweek.org, for more information on how to get involved. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Let's do it. Should we do a photo real quick? Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, thank you, Christabel, for being here. Next, and Councilmember Nickel for reading that. Next up, we have the Spark of Love Toy Drive. Councilmember Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think this will be presented to Chief Dina Lee. Actually, will be here for this one. So, the proclamation. Whereas, in an effort to provide for children who otherwise might not experience the joy of the holiday season, the City of El Segundo Fire Department, along with other Southland fire agencies, has participated in the Spark of Love program for the past 29 years and has collected toys and food items donated during the holidays. And whereas the ever upward spiraling cost of living burdens disadvantaged and displaced families who may not be able to give gifts during the holiday season without help from the Spark of Love program, and whereas the true holiday spirit is reflected in unselfish giving, and our thoughts and hearts go out to those less fortunate than ourselves. And whereas in the past, with the help of civic-minded citizens who live and work in our community, hundreds of toys plus food items have been collected and distributed to children and families in El Segundo and other South-based cities. Now, therefore, the mayor and the members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, do hereby proclaim November 15th, 2021 through December 16th, 2021 as the Spark of Love Toy Drive. The community is encouraged to support this holiday program by contributing toys and non-perishable foods to the El Segundo Fire Department, Fire Station Number 1, at 314 Main Street during the period of November 15th through December 16th, 2021.
All right, Chief Lee. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Like you said, Councilmember Drew, we will be collecting toys at Fire Station 1 starting November 15th. And we're happy to maintain this tradition of collecting toys and giving to children in need.
Thank you. Congrats on your first day on the job, too. All right, next up, we have some exciting news. Not the first time for this city. I think we have Barbara Levine and Barbara Voss both here. Are they here? In the building. Yeah, this is related to the Most Business-Friendly City Award certificate. It's a finalist. Barbara, you want to take it away?
Just let me introduce.
Yeah, thank you.
My history working with the LAEDC, I've worked with Barbara Levine for, gosh, 10 years now, maybe over. And I have to say it has no influence on whether or not we win the Most Business-Friendly City Award. But Barbara's here to provide a certificate because we were finalists in the award. So we're in the top 5 in the under 60,000 category. So introducing Barbara.
Awesome. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Good evening. Mayor and members of the City Council, on behalf of the Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation, it's my pleasure and honor to be here in the city of El Segundo and present you a certificate, a gold award recipient and finalist in the 2021 Most Business-Friendly City in Los Angeles County during and in response to COVID-19. This award recognizes and celebrates the city of El Segundo's demonstrated contributions to economic development in the region that prioritize creating a supportive environment for business recovery, reinvention, resiliency, and growth during and in response to the pandemic. Our judges were impressed by your innovative and business-friendly programs and resources dedicated to support business resiliency during the pandemic. In particular, here are some key highlights that were brought to our attention by our judges. The city and county COVID-19 resources and announcements were quickly and clearly communicated by email and your web pages for employers, workers, and the community at large. So we were constantly updated with helpful information and very useful links. You quickly and completely revamped, pivoted, or developed economic development programs while the business climate kept changing, and sometimes things were changing on a daily basis. And you kept informed, you kept in tune, you worked together with your key business community to find out what was working for them. And certainly the El Segundo Back to Business, Reimagine, Reopen, Rediscover programs was something certainly innovative and creative. So as the pandemic was going on, you still had business attraction and expansions. For some of your employers like Beyond Meat, Belkin, L'Oreal, and the El Segundo Biotech Company, Immunity Bio, and let's not forget the U.S. Space Force announcing their presence here. That's quite an accomplishment. So we applaud your efforts and encourage you to continue developing and evolving business-friendly programs and resources and to keep on getting the word out about what a great city El Segundo is. So as a private, nonprofit organization, LAEDC just celebrated our 40th anniversary and our history of driving action and support of a reimagined Los Angeles regional economy that's growing, equitable, sustainable, and resilient, and provides a healthy and high standard of living for all. Well, just as it takes a great team at LAEDC to accomplish our mission and vision, we know this award was made possible because of the city's visionary leadership and dedicated staff, and we thank you. So on behalf of the LAEDC, I'd like to present the mayor and city council this certificate of gold. And it has nothing to do with the results at next week's Eddie Awards at SoFi Stadium. Mayor?
Thank you very much. And before we go up there and take a picture, I just want to thank Barbara Voss, Christina, Scott Mitnick, everybody in your El Segundo TV. It's been an incredible team effort, great camaraderie during this whole pandemic and before then. And I know all of us on council are super proud of everything that your department's been able to accomplish. So thank you very much for your leadership, Barbara, and Scott, for you as well, and El Segundo TV and everybody else. Well, job well done. Whether we win or not next week at SoFi, we'll win again. Yes, but anyway, job well done. Let's give Barbara and her team a round of applause. Well, Barbara will shamelessly do a picture, if that's okay, with you up here.
Oh.
Yeah.
We're good.
Oh, you guys are good. I like to be on the sideline.
All right, a couple of photos here. This is a big deal. Okay, guys, here we go. And 1, and 2, and 3. I think we're safe.
I think we have 3.
I'm gonna try to make it have a great turnout.
Oh, are you?
I texted my wife and asked her what else is going on.
Nothing. Nothing more than that.
Scott, can I leave this off?
Yeah.
No, but I'm not about to add it. I'm not about to add it. I'm on green. All right, it's, yeah, that's great that we are finalists again. We won, I think it was 2016 that we won. We've won twice before this? Yeah, I think you're right. And as we've said before, the business community is essentially our livelihood from a cash flow standpoint. More than 98% of this city's revenue comes from business, commercial business, directly or indirectly. So it's a testament to our staff's leadership. All right, public communication. Let's see, those wishing to speak via Zoom, please click the hand icon and the host will announce your name when it's your turn to speak. If you're dialing in from a phone, you'll need to press *9 to raise the icon hand and *6 to unmute. And let's see, I know we have some folks here in the chamber, right? Yes, we'll have to put our mask back on, folks. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi. My name is Karen Fowler. I live here in El Segundo, and I have for about 15 years. I wrote a letter, and I gave it to you all, and hopefully you have it. And I'm going to read it, if you don't mind. It says, Dear City Council members, I'm here today to ask you for a review of the safety near Candy Cane Park and the surrounding alleys. The street I am including are Bender Avenue, it's actually Bender Place, and the alley behind Candy Cane Park between Virginia and Whiting Streets. Bender Avenue is a shortcut that runs east and west and is used by everyone from FedEx, UPS, locals, and others. I'm a 15-year resident in this location. I have personally witnessed reckless speeders fly down Bender Avenue and blind turn into the alley. I've witnessed drivers under the influence who have subsequently been arrested, crashed into the light pole with a baby in a car, SUVs careen around the corner, nearly missing children, riding bikes in the alley, and parents with strollers or people out walking their dogs, all in harm's way. I've personally seen at least 3 animals hit by speeding cars, as well as a truck that crashed into my front yard, hitting the 30-foot eucalyptus tree, splitting it in half, and then backing up and driving away. With this lovely little Candy Cane Park open to the alley, I've seen dozens of parents take their toddlers and newborns out for some fun. As children do once in a while, they can get away from their parents, and I've seen several run into the alley to be nearly hit by oncoming speeders. Unfortunately, people can and often are careless and reckless, and my concern is that this is a recipe for an accident that's waiting to happen. I'm asking you to please consider posting speed limits and caution children at play signs in the area, as well as installing speed bumps down Bender Avenue that will significantly slow down drivers to a much safer speed, thereby protecting children and others who populate the area. I hope we don't have to wait until a tragic accident occurs before this action is taken. I appreciate your time regarding this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. I hope you do something about it.
We're gonna, at the end of public comments, we typically have the city manager comment on some of the things that have been said. So if you can either watch at home or stick around if
I
you'd
will.
like. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays.
Council, actually, Our analyst, Portland-based, is going to talk with Mrs. Fowler out in the hallway to explain the process, just so you know.
Do I need to turn something on now? Good evening, Council. My name is Mary Ann Björklund. I live on 735 Maryland Street here in El Segundo with my husband and 2 dogs. This is in regards to the coyote problem. I had never been frightened in El Segundo before, but every time I walk around in El Segundo now with my 2 dogs, I'm frightened. I look behind me and in front of me. We see frequent sightings all day. Most scary as they walk around in the middle of the day. The other day, I saw one and I tried to shoo it away, and it kind of just stopped and looked at me. I have 2 small dogs and I have a beautiful backyard. I have to lock my dogs inside all day, the house, due to the coyote problems. Our streets have many children, small toddlers, cats and dogs. My elderly friend, that's 81 years old, she has a small dog, will not be able to protect herself and her dog from a coyote. The predators that sneak around the corner and bite you and tiptoe behind you, they're not like wolves or anything else. This is frightening. I'm scared. Please take action with this serious safety issue before something serious happens with children, people, dogs, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bjorklund.
Hi, I'm Arthur Verge. I'm Miss Bjorklund's husband and also the parent of those 2 small dogs they were just talking about. It's a little emotional driving down Maple Street and seeing on the telephone poles cat missing and knowing what happened to the cat. In the last 4 days, I've had 3 sightings of coyotes on Maryland Street. In addition to that, 2 were hunting together, and I'm walking with the 2 small dogs. I read the very good article, El Segundo Herald, saying don't walk at night, or early in the morning. But having a dear friend that's an emergency room physician, why should that doctor not be able to take their dog out and walk? When I called the city, I'm a historian of California, I was a little taken aback by the condescending. Well, they were here first. They're free-ranging. And I did everything to say, so are grizzly bears, so are wolves. I'll stay out of what happened. But they're not here. We don't have to worry about that. It's an urban environment. And I really think we've lost the focus of animal control and public safety. Doing nothing's the easy route. Just saying, we're just going to monitor. I also was a part-time LA County lifeguard for 42 years. And anytime I was dealing with somebody in government and they said, we're going to monitor it, I said, oh, that means you're going to do nothing. And that's what the approach El Segundo has taken at this point. We're just going to watch. In 2019, the people, citizens of the good city of Torrance were so angry, they showed up in droves to their city council meeting and saying, stop being complacent, do something. One of the things when I was in government, when I worked with the lifeguards, I said, we must be proactive, not reactive. We got sharks, that's a problem. Let's jump on it now. Drones, whatever we have to do, let's get this thing going. It's public safety. So we're very fortunate to have you as our city council. I hope you will take action. I hope you will be proactive. I hope it's drilled down. This is animal control. This is public safety. and that the residents, when they're feeling unsafe, all politics is local. All politics, they don't care so much about Washington, California. They want their city back where they can walk their kids to the school safely, they can walk their dogs, simple as it sounds, but those people vote, they pay taxes, coyotes don't. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Verge. Okay, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak during public communications?
No, currently there is no one with their hand raised.
All right, thank you. City Manager, would you like to follow up on some of the comments made?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, 2 topics to follow up on: Binder Avenue traffic issues, and I did have Portland Bates, our analyst, speak to the speaker, and he will advise how to follow up, and we'll make sure our public works staff get out there and take a look at the situation and work with her. With respect to the coyote concerns, in a way, we're glad that people came down to speak on that. We've been working very hard to get the word out to the community about the coyote issue and what steps people can take. The second speaker was indeed correct that it's important to be proactive. And we're trying very hard to be proactive, to make the residents aware of what steps they can take to minimize the concerns with coyotes and the presence and that we heard about potential people losing their cats and so on. And look, the reality is that we have a really good animal control program trying to deal with this issue. It's not unique to us. We heard reference made to torrents. This is happening throughout the South Bay. So residents are advised to keep their pets in at night, to make sure they don't have trash outside their trash cans, leave food outside, that type of thing. This is the season for it. We're not going to make excuses. I am appalled that that gentleman had the response he did from the city staff member. We'll take a look at that. We want to work with our residents and help them and minimize the concerns with coyotes. So again, I have staff working with that couple and we'll follow up. We encourage our residents, go to our website, call in, call animal control, and residents, if you're not happy with the response you're getting, call our office, call the city manager's office, ask to speak to myself, and we will follow up and work with every resident.
Question for you, Mr. Mitnick. So in regards to being proactive, so what can we tell our residents? I see a coyote, or hey, my dog went missing, my cat went missing, I think a coyote ate it. What can be done? What can animal control do?
They'll take a report, they'll come out and talk to the resident, they'll look at the situation if they have any evidence for us. We are fairly aware of the coyote population in our area, where they roam, where they go. We'll work with the residents, each one case by case.
But I think at one point you said to me something along the lines that, you know, until a coyote attacks a person, that we can't, there's no grounds in the state to trap them or to euthanize them or anything along those lines. So at what point, though, are we going to view a domesticated animal, a pet, a family member, to many, as being a person and having a wild animal?
At what point you're saying, does it trigger doing a trapping and euthanizing a coyote?
I mean, because I can speak, last week I was on a run, it was about 6:10 a.m., I'm coming through the park, there's a big coyote there. And I saw a couple of people walking their dogs, and I hollered at them to, hey, watch out, go the other way. And as I exited the park on the back of Sheldon Street, so by the city yard maintenance area there, Animal Control Joe was pulling up in his truck, and I said, hey, you know, coyote's 20 yards ahead, straight ahead. And he said, okay, well, my goal, I'm just trying to shoo it on. And when he said that to me, I thought to myself, like, okay, that's what he's being told to do, right? That's his job, to shoo them on, but shoo them on where? So then I came back from the beach and saw that coyote hanging out in the fire department parking lot. Same guy, right? So at some point, like, our residents are like, okay, shooing them on, is that being proactive? Because it's not really doing anything. We're just hoping that they don't kill a pet or hurt a child or hurt an adult.
The city does have a formal coyote management plan, and it might be instructive that we put this on the next agenda and we can have staff walk you through and walk the community through and help with the education. But to answer your question, if we have evidence that an animal or a pet was attacked, if a human was attacked, there are then, that's a compelling reason for us to get involved and then try to get a hold of that coyote to capture it and euthanize it. But there are a series of steps that we have to go through before we get to that point.
So I think it would be helpful if we describe to the public as to, essentially like what rules are we bound by from the state, from, what is
Yeah.
it, Fish and Wildlife or something?
Fish and wildlife, yes, yeah.
So understanding what are the rules and what do we have to abide by and what can we do and what can we not do?
Right. We do have the coyote management plan that's available to the public, but I encourage residents now, call into our office, we'll sit down with you, talk you through it, and give some pointers about how to minimize exposure to the coyotes. And eventually, as the rains come and all that, it'll be less of an issue, but it'll raise its head again in a few months.
But it hasn't rained in California in 20 years, so.
I understand. Yeah, it's a challenging issue. I'd be happy to have a separate agenda item on this so we can explain it more thoroughly, answer questions more clearly, if that's of help.
Scott, but what do we really, you say that we have a coyote management plan. The management plan seems to be avoid the coyote. Telling people not to walk their pets in the morning or at night doesn't really make any sense, because for most people that work, that is the only time they can do those things. Now with daylight savings time coming up in a little bit, it's gonna get darker earlier. So I don't think putting it as an agendized item is going to do anything if we're just gonna repeat the same things that Detective Corkins put out in his video and things like that. I understand that that's what we should do, but I don't think it's being proactive. And are we saying that the trigger to be able to do anything is if someone actually gets attacked? Is that what we're being told? I think we just need to be very honest about that. Is that what we're being told?
In terms of trapping and euthanizing, that would be a triggering event. We are not telling people don't walk your pets at night or in the morning. And when you, part of the educational process is you should walk your pets, you should go about your normal life, but just be aware if you're in areas where coyotes might frequent. I'm not the expert here, but I know what I've been, I know the mechanisms here. It's make sure you make yourself present, you make noise in certain instances. I'm not an expert on this, but we can have our experts work with the residents that have expressed concerns, but we can't just go out without a compelling reason and go start trapping for the coyotes. Because when we do that, you take one out, you remove it, another one will come back.
Is residential fear a compelling enough reason?
Look,
I probably asked the police chief, Jaime Bermudez, to explain the steps that an animal control officer goes through. He can chime in right now and clarify that if council likes.
Can I, this might be helpful if we're gonna be pushing information to the public. There's, look, over on the west side, way over by the power lines, right, we have red-legged hawks. The cumulative curb weight of all of the dogs in my family is about 8 pounds, I think. So the red-legged hawks are a legitimate concern, just as much as coyotes are. But I think to that, and the reason I make that parallel is because that easement, right, where the power lines are, and the dunes west of LAX are where we believe that most of these things are living, where their dens are, and that as weather's been dry, they've come out of that. It may be instructive in our next update on coyotes to learn what the rules of engagement are at LAX. What Justin's team over there is doing, how they approach this, because if they are the refuge for these, or if the power line easement is the refuge, they clearly have their own environmental guidelines of how they deal with these things. And I think it would be very helpful for us to know. So if we have some sort of proactive approach we're taking, we can shape that around where these things actually live. Because we know that those hawks are gonna live in those power lines, so we adapt to that, sometimes with some crazy shimmery stuff we put up. But by the same token, if this is where the coyote's gonna live, we should know what their approach is, and then we can shape around it.
Let's add that the South Bay COG has talked about this for years. We've talked about it before here. Torrance and the Hill are collaborating right now on this topic. I was just with the council member from Pasadena yesterday. She just did a town hall. Many of the cities are struggling with the same issue, and they also are somewhat hamstrung in terms of what they can do. I do think it would be important to do either a town hall or a council presentation to educate and understand what other cities are doing, especially Torrance and the Hill, because they have a more significant problem than we do, apparently.
And Torrance is being more aggressive right now. They are trapping. Would it be okay if I have our police chief weigh in a little bit here?
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Jaime Bermudez. I'm the interim police chief. I did want to follow up on what the city manager was talking about. We do have a town hall meeting scheduled with Fish and Wildlife coming up probably within the next couple weeks. When citizens review our coyote management plan, like you said, Mayor, it is a very challenging issue here in the South Bay and in all of Southern California. We do want to take steps. One is we educate the public. Then, if we start hearing that there are more sightings, we can go on to further education. Currently, we're in that stage where we educate the public on what are the right steps to do. So one is, managing the trash, figuring out when is the right time to walk your pets. But we do want to do the town hall meeting with Department of Fish and Wildlife. And then lastly, if those things are not working, then we graduate into trapping. And that would be a decision that council would have to make, and we would make that presentation to you with all the options.
Chief, is there a date yet for that town hall?
Yeah, we reached out to Fish and Wildlife, so we are looking at some dates currently, probably in late November, early December. But as soon as we schedule that, we will get that going.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mitnick?
We'll be sure to publicize that. We'll follow up the couple that came out and spoke, and we'll get the word out.
All right. That concludes public comments. Procedural motions. Stating your last name, do we have a motion to read all ordinances and resolutions by title only?
Giroux, so moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Nichols, second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please take a voice vote?
Councilmember Giroux.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol.
Aye.
Councilmember Perstock.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Yes.
Mayor Boyle.
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Consent calendar. Are there any polls?
Mr. Mayor, can I pull item 6 for just a quick question?
Yes. Any other polls? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve items 5, 7, 8, and 9?
Giroux, so moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second, Pimentel?
Great. Madam Clerk, voice vote, please.
Councilmember Giroux.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol.
Aye.
Councilmember Perstock.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Yes.
Mayor Boyles.
Yes.
All right, 5-0 with the exception of 6.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel, item 6, please.
Just a quick question. I noticed 5 items on the register for, looks like workman's comp payments in excess of $100,000 cumulatively, and I just want to make sure that that is accurate. I mean, I presume that it is, but just highlighting that seems unusually high.
Our Chief Financial Officer, Joe Lilio, can chime in. Mr. Lilio.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. So Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel, I believe you are referring to wire payments that were made in reference to workers' comp activity.
Yeah, that's correct. The week of October 11th, we're in at like $59,000, and I think the next week after that, there's a $27,000 payment as well. And I wasn't sure if I may have misread. Is that a liability payment, or is that a payout in compensation?
So it says workers' comp activity as the payee or description. Those would be related to various worker comp claims or settlements or settlements. So that is correct. That was the total during this time frame.
Very well. Thank you very much. And again, that's not so much a question. I think there's just highlighting that is a very heavy month of payment for compensation claims, and that's 6 figures is a salary. So.
And council, as the settlements get approved, we will be announcing the settlements along with the amounts. Council approves them, and then have to get approved by the workers' comp court, and then they'll be announced. So there'll be some of those coming up.
Thank you very much. With that, Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval to item 6.
Thank you. So you're saying that this will come before us again with an opportunity?
Just as a way of announcement, the council had expressed some interest in having they come to you in closed session, you approve them, they then don't have to go in front of the workers' comp court, the court to approve them, then they're finalized, at which point we can then state what the settlement was in general terms, the amount paid and to whom.
Great, thank you. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem with the first, do we have a second?
Giroux, second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember Drew,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol,
Aye.
Councilmember Perstock,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Yes.
And Mayor Boyle.
Yes.
5-0.
Thank you, ma'am. Presentations. Adopt resolutions amending city contributions for CalPERS medical premiums. And who will present on this?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, HR Director Rebecca Reddick will do so virtually.
Great.
Thank you, City Manager Mitnick. Tonight, Mayor and members of the City Council, I have a housekeeping item before you. The labor contracts that the city has with the bargaining units include negotiated raises to the medical premium contribution amounts. And these were previously approved by the City Council when the MOUs were adopted, the memorandums of understanding. So there are resolutions to CalPERS within this item tonight. There also is a resolution in the item to bring the city's allowance for part-time unrepresented employees current to the 2022 amount that we are required to offer to employees working an average of 30 hours per week as defined full-time under the Affordable Care Act.
Great, thank you, Mrs. Reddick. So, let's see, City Attorney, if you could read the resolutions,
Yes,
unless
okay.
there's any council discussion on this matter. Doesn't appear to be. If you could read them individually, then we'll vote on each one.
And there are 5 of them, so this will take a minute. So the first one, resolution fixing the employer contribution under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act at an equal amount for employees and annuitants with respect to a recognized employees organization. 003 Cities Employees Association is ready for adoption.
Great, thank you. Who would like to make a motion approving the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you.
Nichols, second.
Okay, great. Madam Clerk, we do a voice vote, please?
Was that Nichol?
Sure.
Yes, Nickel on the second, Drew on the first.
Buzzer beater.
Thank you. Councilmember Drew,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol,
Aye.
Councilmember Perstock,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Aye.
Mayor Boyle.
Yes,
Passes 5-0.
thank you. Okay, next one, City Attorney, please.
Resolution fixing the employer contribution under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act at an amount equal for employees and annuitants with respect to a recognized employees organization 005 Supervisory/Professional Employees Association is ready for adoption.
Who would like to move approval of this resolution?
Perstock, so moved.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Nichols, second.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember Drew,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol,
Aye.
Councilmember Perstock,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Aye.
And Mayor Boyle.
Yes,
5-0.
thank you. All right, next one, City Attorney.
Resolution fixing the employer contribution under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act at an equal amount for employees and annuitants with respect to a recognized employees organization 008 Police Support Services Employees Association is ready for adoption.
Who would like to move approval?
Giroux, so moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Perstock, second.
Great, thank you, Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember Drew,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol,
Aye.
Councilmember Perstock,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Aye.
And Mayor Boyle.
Yes,
5-0.
okay, next one, please.
A resolution fixing the employer contribution under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act at an equal amount for employees and annuitants with respect to a recognized employees organization 700 non-PERS elected officials is ready for adoption.
All right, who would like to move approval?
I'll go again. Giroux, so moved.
Thank you.
Nichols, second.
Great, Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember Drew,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol,
Aye.
Councilmember Perstock,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Yes.
Mayor Boyle.
Yes.
5-0.
Okay,
And finally, a resolution fixing the employer contribution under Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act at an equal amount for employees and annuitants with respect to a recognized employee organization 009 unrepresented hourly employee group is ready for adoption.
All right, who would like to move approval on the last one?
I'll finalize it. Jeruso moves.
Thank you.
Nichols second.
Excellent. Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember Drew.
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol.
Aye.
Councilmember Perstuck.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Yes.
Mayor Boyle.
Yes.
The last one, 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We're on to Smoky Hollow on-street parking pilot project and city attorney. Do I need to recuse myself in this one?
Design work.
Let me look at this for a second. I'm sorry. We did not review this earlier. Is this within 500 feet of your business?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
You should recuse yourself. And my apologies, Mayor, I should have picked up on that.
You can apologize to me, though. I'm in control.
Okay, Mr. Hague, you're running the meeting now.
That's General Haig.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Minnick, who will report on this item?
Sir, Public Works Director Elias Sassoon will report on this, and I'm proud that we're finally moving forward on this item. I know how important it is to City Council. Thank you.
Mr. Sassoon, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Good evening again, Mr. Pro Tem and Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. I'll be making the presentation with my colleague, Mr. Michael Allen. He's going to put up a map. If Tracy, if you allow her, Mr. Michael Allen to share the screen, if you don't mind. There you go. So on May 18th of 2021, staff made a presentation and provided an updated report to the City Council regarding the El Segundo Boulevard parallel parking pilot project. And as part of that presentation, the City Council authorized staff to remove the pylons and the parallel parking stalls along El Segundo Boulevard from Main to Sheldon, which were installed in November of 2019, and re-stripe El Segundo Boulevard to its original condition. And furthermore, the City Council authorized staff to develop an alternate pilot parking program and report back to the City Council. So we now, following the direction from the City Council, we now have a proposal from KOA Corporation to provide the professional consulting services for the conceptual design of Smoky Hollow on-street parking pilot project, which basically as part of this pilot project, two adjacent north-south streets within the district will be chosen, and we will change the operation on these streets from the current two-way to one-way streets. And this change of operation will create, depending on which streets to be chosen, it'll create between 6 to 19 additional angled parking spaces along these two streets. And once we get this pilot project selected and designed and implemented, we will evaluate, and then if that proves to be successful, we intend to do this for the entire district. So at this time, I'd be more than happy to answer any question the City Council may have.
Council questions? I have just a couple. Mr. Sassoon, the design portion of this will come from the general fund, but will the striping itself come from the Smoky Hollow parking in lieu budget?
Correct. We intend to utilize the funding from in lieu parking for the budget, to budget this project, and that's what we intend to do. Yes, sir.
And in the Smoky Hollow specific plan that we approved 2 years ago, did that have design guidelines within that?
I believe so. I wasn't here when that was adopted, but I took a glance at that, and it does include that, but it talks about it in a conceptual basis. So we intend to focus on more detail, be able to select these two. We're gonna have input from the neighbors. Obviously, we're not gonna make a decision in vacuum. So there's gonna be a participation by public as to what are the best two roadways that we need to select, and well, do we need to also improve the curb and gutter and sidewalk, maybe landscaping. And then once the conceptual design is done, we intend to come back to City Council for the detailed design agreement with the consulting firm, and that would be the next step, and then we get it built.
Okay, that seems like a lot. I would just say that it seems like a few steps to striping that may drag this on a bit. I would add three cautionary notes. One, that this Smoky Hollow specific plan to include parking, I think, was originally conceptualized in 2012. So, this is something that certainly its time has come to bring to fruition. I would say as a vestige of the approval of the plan, there was maybe not broad understanding, but somewhat of an understanding that the striping would occur from west to east. So as you speak to, or the consultancy speaks to the impacted neighbors, I would go in there with that understanding that some may have anticipated that as the plan.
Yes, sir.
And then thirdly, as Smoky Hollow's population is turned over, the business population is turned over, there's a good chance that some, most, or nearly all of the residents there, business residents, may not have any understanding that this is in the offing. So they'll very naturally have questions about how it will impact them, and if they have rights to parking spaces that will suddenly be on the other side of the street, how that will play out for them. So I would add those as sort of three cautionary notes to your team going forward. But if landscaping is an obstacle or something that will delay this improvement, I think we would have a real sense of urgency to overcome that on the council.
Yes, sir. No, thank you so much.
All right, to the council, stating your last name, do I have a motion authorizing staff to execute a professional services agreement with KOA for a conceptual design of the Smoky Hollow on-street pilot project?
Jeruso moved.
Do I have a second?
Nichols, second.
Madam Clerk, please take a voice vote.
Councilmember Drew,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol,
Aye.
Councilmember Perset,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel,
Yes.
and passes 4-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can we have the Sergeant at Arms retrieve the mayor? Ensure he's not crossed aviation to hide from a vote and a quorum. So we're going to rezone all of Whiting? Is that? Oh, there he is. The 300 block of Whiting is now a coyote refuge.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. We're on to item 12. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate it. Aquatics fee study and cost recovery policy. And Mr. Bidnick will report on this.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, another riveting topic. We will have a combination of Melissa McCollum, our Community Services Director, and our Chief Financial Officer, Joe Lilio.
Great, thank you.
So I think Mr. Lilio is going to start.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Boyles, Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel, City Council members. Can you see the presentation up before you?
We can.
Okay, great. Okay, so City Council had asked staff to go back and look at the aquatic fees. Staff, along with a consultant revenue cost specialist, went and analyzed the aquatic programs at the 3 pools. So that would be the Plunge, Hilltop, and the Aquatic Center. Okay. So So this slide breaks down each pool. So we have the 3 pools listed: the Aquatic Center, the Plunge, the Hilltop. That's listed on the left, far left of the slide. And it breaks down the cost by direct costs, which is staffing and maintenance costs. I'm sorry, staffing and utility costs. And then we have maintenance costs to the next column. And then department overhead, insurance, and indirect costs. And then the far right-hand side is the total cost to run each pool. So you can see the Aquatic Center, if you look to the far right, is about 2.1 million per year. The Plunge is about 1.3 million per year. Hilltop, about 180,000 per year, for a total cost to the city of 3.6 million to run the 3 facilities. So the pool usage, so this breaks down the Aquatic Center, the Plunge and Hilltop by program. The Aquatic Center is about 52% aquatic programs, 8% school district programming, just under 14% for water polo programming, and then about 26% for private swim rentals. While the Plunge and Hilltop are primarily for aquatic programming, there is also water polo programming at the Plunge. This slide depicts the cost to the city to run the various programs offered at the 3 pools. So while the 2 slides ago was the total 3.6 million, this breaks it by pool. This breaks it down by program. So aquatic programming costs the city about 2.4 million. School district programming about 178,000. Water polo programming 471,000, and swim private rentals about 555,000 per year, for a total of 3.6 million. Okay, the slide breaks down the direct costs, maintenance costs, and overhead costs associated with operating the Aquatic Center. So this slide is just for the Aquatic Center, and broken down by program, and broken down by direct costs, maintenance costs, and then overhead and indirect costs, for a total of 2.1 million for the Aquatic Center. And if City Council does have any questions along the way, please feel free to stop and ask.
Joe, I'll jump in. This is Chris Pimentel. I don't recall, and this could be to use a term of the era, a misremembering, at any point that we have looked at these with these overhead costs included. So these include, are these a recharge of a citywide liability that's apportioned to these? Because these are enormous cost escalations. I mean, the addition of $800,000 of costs to the Aquatic Center is a tremendous charge that I don't recall ever seeing before included in its cost of operation.
That is correct. So this is looking at what's called the fully burdened rates, fully burdened costs. So I have done this with all the other fees and services within the city. When the Aquatic Center was opened, this was not included as part of that overall cost allocation plan. It was done separately. So this is the first time that council's seeing it from what's called a fully burdened cost perspective.
So, and I bring this up because I'm gonna, the devil in statistics, right? When we look at it this way, if the total revenue of the Aquatic Center is $500,000, but our total city cost is $2 million, someone so inclined could make the case that that pool is costing the city $1.5 million a year.
So I do have subsequent slides that get into the revenue and the cost recovery. But just speaking in general terms, aquatic programs, pools, usually are highly subsidized by municipalities. That's just the nature of the programming. I'm not aware of any municipality that is breaking even or even generating revenue.
I only say this because I think that so much of the projections in the first few years of the operation of the Aquatic Center, and the Aquatic Center is the biggest pool we have here, were based on calculations of its direct costs and its maintenance costs. And the effective doubling of those by adding the overheads is an entirely different way of looking at the books that we have not before.
That is correct. And, I think it's a perspective that council needs to see. And I'm going to get into subsequent slides, Mayor Pro Tem, that show what those revenues are. And we also have some comparisons of our neighboring cities. And in general, municipalities really only assess collect cost recovery under 100% for the direct costs and maintenance costs. So I have slides that get into that. So the industry norm in municipalities is about 20 to 30% cost recovery for direct and maintenance costs. And again, I have subsequent slides that are going to get into that in more detail.
Thank you.
Okay, so this was the aquatic.
Sorry, Joe, it's Lance, just quick, on slide 3, when you have this plunge up there, is that current plunge? Like that's the direct cost, maintenance cost, overhead cost based on what we have right now? It's not.
No, this is based off of operating for 12 months.
No, I'm saying this is not based on renovating the plunge. This is just off historical, what we've had to pay out.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
So the plunge in the condition it's in right now costs $1.3 million to run.
If we look at these three cost indicators, the direct cost, maintenance costs, and the overhead, yes.
Okay.
Can't make.
Well, in that case of the plunge specifically, the overheads account for 45% of its cost allocation, more or less?
Approximately, yes.
But Joe, that doesn't make real sense because the plunge has been closed and it still remains closed, so there's no, pardon?
So, well, this is, okay, we're looking at if these pools were operating.
Okay, so the assumption is, so you're
Right,
looking at historical data to come up with this, okay. Then on
Historical and looking as if these, all these pools were operating on a 12-month cycle. But even with the plunge not operating, you do get rid of almost all the direct costs, however, the maintenance costs are still there. And some of the overhead costs are there. So like the insurance allocation, we still have to insure it, even though it's not operating. So there's still some of those costs associated with the plunge, even though it's not operating. But this is looking as if the plunge, the Aquatic Center and the Hilltop were operating year round.
Because I think one of the things that we were looking at is how much money we were saving by not having the plunge open, so that we can make the decision, when we were looking at the redesign of the plunge, how much are we actually saving by not having it open? And that 1.3 would not be a true number.
Right, so this study did not focus on, not operating the plunge. We're just looking at, here's the three pools that the city operates. What are the direct costs, maintenance costs, overhead for these three pools? What are their revenues and what are the cost recovery for these three pools? I don't remember off the top of my head, I'm sorry. I can look at it while the presentation's going on, and maybe Melissa can help out as well. But the plunge, what that cost savings was when we're not operating, I'll get that to you before the end of this presentation.
And Joe, did I hear you correctly when you said that, looking at these apartment overhead, city overhead, facility replacement costs was not taken into consideration when El Segundo Aquatic Center was actually built? Like this isn't a number. This isn't a number that we saw.
I was not.
You were not here.
I was not employed by the city at the time.
Neither was I. So we can both claim that. But it just looks a little bit interesting that that's a huge bumper in the cost structure that if it was not taken in consideration at the beginning. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes. So
last one, Joe. Last one before we let you move on to slide 4. Let's say if the Aquatic Center did not exist, would those $800,000 be still charged? They would just be allocated to different pay codes in the city? Would those be different department codes? Would have reallocated that $800,000, would that be still something the city is owed, or are those specifically tied to operations of the Aquatic Center?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mayor Pro
thought
Tem.
so.
And it's, yeah, most of those costs would still exist and just be allocated elsewhere. Now, one example is we may have a slightly lower insurance premium if we didn't have an additional pool to cover. But most of those overhead costs would still exist and be allocated somewhere else.
Make sure they know we don't have a diving board.
Yes, yeah, they're well aware. Okay, so I think we left off here on slide 6. Again, this was just specifically looking at the Aquatic Center and the total cost to run the Aquatic Center. This next slide is, again, the plunge and the total direct cost, maintenance cost, overhead, and total cost of $1.3 million to run the plunge. And again, that's as if it was operating for a full year. Hilltop, $180,000. And I believe this cost is much lower because it does not operate on a 12-month cycle. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's maybe just during the summer months that it's operating, and that's why it's much lower cost here. Okay, so slide 9, this depicts the cost recovery per program. So again, this is looking at programs, aquatics, school district programming, water polo programming, and swim private rentals. And it looks at the cost recovery. So one, we have the revenues by program. So total revenues are 1.4 million. And then again, we have it broken down by program there. The total cost recovery for direct costs by program, and then the total of 81%. Total cost recovery for direct plus maintenance costs. Again, it's listed by program, and the total overall 67%. And then with direct maintenance and overhead costs, total cost recovery is about 39%. So this looks at the Aquatic Center cost recovery, and it broken down by program. So again, total revenues for the Aquatic Center are coming in at just a little over 1.2 million. Total cost recovery for direct costs, 114%. 94% cost recovery for direct plus maintenance costs. That's very high compared to most aquatic centers, most pool facilities, compared to most other municipalities. And then direct and maintenance costs plus overhead cost recovery at 58%. For the plunge, because this is really a community-based pool, you're going to see very different cost recovery structure here. So total revenues for the plunge are 154,000, and for a lot of the programs, we actually do not charge any fee to get into the plunge. Some of the programs do, but there's many of the programs that we are not charging for use at the plunge. Direct cost recovery at the plunge, just under 27%. And then you can see 22% for direct maintenance, and then just under 12% for direct maintenance plus overhead. And then Hilltop's very similar to the plunge. And this is directly from our consultant revenue cost specialist, who works with well over 200 municipalities throughout the state of California. So has a direct clientele based over 200 municipalities. The average cost recovery for community pools, so that would be like the plunge and Hilltop, is anywhere from 20 to 30% of direct costs only. So very, very heavily subsidized programs for community pools. And in competitive pools, 75 to 100% of direct costs. And I'm going to go back real quick to the Aquatic Center. We're at 114% for direct cost recovery. So we're well above the state average of 75 to 100%. Now what we did here is we threw in some popular programming and the El Segundo cost for that programming and compared it to some of our neighboring cities in the South Bay area. So this is lap swim and recreation swim. You can see El Segundo's in the middle there. So this is ranked from high cost down to the lowest cost. Again, El Segundo's for lap swim is right in the middle. Manhattan Beach being the highest and Hawthorne being the lowest. And again, for recreation swim, same thing, Manhattan Beach and Santa Monica being higher, El Segundo right in the middle, and Hawthorne being the lowest cost. And this is just taking that data and putting it into graphical format. So you can see for adult resident, lap swim, we're lower compared to Manhattan Beach and Santa Monica, but right in line with Culver City and Hawthorne. And then the child resident rec swim, we're right in the middle there. Okay, this is looking at group swim lessons and private swim lessons. And again, looking at some of our neighboring cities in the South Bay area. El Segundo charges $6 per resident. We're right in the middle. We have Manhattan Beach and Santa Monica charging higher fees than us. And then Culver City and Hawthorne lower. On the private swim lessons, we have Santa Monica charging more than us, Manhattan Beach just slightly less, and Culver City much higher fee structure. And here's again that information, that data depicted in graphical format. El Segundo is the dark blue bar on the far left. And you can see for resident group swim, we're kind of in the middle there. The resident private swim lessons were more on the lower side. Permit group rentals. So we have it broken down here by youth swim groups per lane per hour, adult swim groups per lane per hour, and water polo youth and adult per lane per hour. The fees are kind of all over the place here. We have Hawthorne being the lowest. El Segundo is probably a little bit higher on the swim group youth per lane per hour. More in the middle for the adult swim groups, and again, more in the middle for the water polo. And again, here's taking that data and putting it in graphical format. El Segundo is the dark blue bar on the far left on each table. You can see the youth, the nonprofit youth group swim, El Segundo's higher. And we're in the middle with the other adult swim and water polo. So that concludes the presentation. I know Melissa is on the line. We also have, I believe, Linnea on the line to help address any questions City Council may have. And basically what staff's recommendation is, I'm gonna stop sharing, and if council wants to go back to any particular slide, I can bring it back up again. But what staff's recommendation for tonight is to keep the current fees as is, and staff will be bringing the master fee schedule to City Council sometime in April. We've been doing this for the past 3 years, and we apply the consumer, the LA, Long Beach, Anaheim CPIU, which is the Consumer Price Index for the urban areas. And we apply that to all the fees on the master fee schedule. And then that takes effect beginning July 1. We have not included the recreation, aquatic, and park fees in the past, and the goal is to begin including that when we bring the master fee schedule to City Council in April, apply the CPI to the aquatic fees, and then there would be whatever that CPI increase would take effect July 1. That's what staff's recommending. Of course, council can give us any direction that they wish.
I think there's a happy story in here in that the Aquatic Center is performing. And that's something that I think we'd had grave concerns about a year ago, but to see it, at the 94% on cost recovery, of its direct costs and its maintenance costs is very reassuring. I think that there was a lot of trepidation into what we would see out of this coming in. So I think that is a credit to the staff and the way that they've managed to get that rented, and the high utilization rate at the set fees is a very encouraging story.
Correct, but I also am a little concerned with these overhead costs now being figured in, because in the end, we're gonna have to we understand that obviously that it's a subsidization issue, and we're expected to subsidize, but to what level? And when we make that decision, do we take into consideration all the costs that you just threw in there, or are we talking about direct costs? Because if it's everything, let's just say that the plunge is going to cost. I mean, by the time it gets built 5 years down the road, who knows what the construction cost is going to be? Let's say it's $10 million, just to make the math easy, and then you get. So at first, I thought it was a 10% recurring cost, and it seems to be more about a 15% recurring cost. So if you talk on 1.5 over there, 2.1 million over at El Segundo Aquatic Center, that's a big number. So are we going to say that it's okay that we're going to subsidize north of $1 million every year out of the general fund for that sport?
I think there's a bit of financial sorcery that goes on here, though, in that those overhead costs, even if we did not operate a single pool in El Segundo, the city would still be paying those overheads you see in there. They would just charge it to streets or water or us or something. I mean, those still exist. So the divisor, and it looks like it's almost like a clean 46% of the total value calculation. They all seem to be right about the same number on there. So just that the addition of that divisor, while valid in assessing the cost to run a city, I think muddies the water a bit on what it takes to run these pools.
On top of that, too, I mean, at this juncture, all of the revenue programs are at the Aquatic Center, and so it's the plunge is kind of like lounging there, where if we didn't have the Aquatic Center, they would be at the plunge and we would be making money. So it's like you've kind of moved all the revenue to one pool, and now the plunge becomes a community pool. So if we didn't have the plunge, we have a responsibility to our community to provide pool services, and right now everything is being high revenue. So it's just, I don't know, it seems like the Aquatic Center is like hypercharged to make money, and the plunge becomes a community pool, and that's the way I think it was structured. So it's kind of unfair. You kind of have to look at them together.
Well, I think what's encouraging here is because the Aquatic Center is absorbing some of the lower margin events and still performing well. In theory, when the plunge comes on and absorbs some of those low margin water polo and swim team things, and that frees up Aquatic Center pool time for some of the extraordinarily high margin events, that we could conceivably look forward to even better performance out of it. That's just my 2 cents.
I think we can go down a big rabbit hole tonight, and I don't want to do that. I think what staff is asking is, do we tie the rate fees to CPI right now, right? Because I know we're going to have apparently 3 or 4 years of discussions on the plunge and the cost recovery situation. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole tonight.
We have two options. One is, do we want to address any aspect of the aquatic fee schedule tonight, or do we want to put in place a inflation index of sorts in the future? Is that right, Joe?
That is correct, Mayor, and we have not applied an inflationary factor to the aquatic programs in the past. So this would be a policy change.
Okay, so the first question is there an appetite for increasing any component of the existing aquatic fee schedule?
So real quick before we do that, I mean, Councilmember Nickel mentioned privately to me, we do have people that pay the rec card. And what portion of that revenue from the rec card payment is actually going toward the revenue at the plunge, because that rec card gets you access to the plunge. So have you taken a portion of the rec card revenue and applied it to the plunge?
Well, I think before we go down that little rabbit hole inside the much larger rabbit hole, Joe, I think the department OH, city OH, and facility replacement costs, I would love to see how that's broken down to Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel's comment about the sorcery that is done. I think it's just important from, for the public that's watching to understand, because when you look at like direct costs, I guess for me as a resident, I'm thinking direct costs, what does it cost to run the pool? So what does it cost to staff lifeguards and heat the pool and so on and so forth, right? Maintenance costs, this is fixing the pool and any breakdowns and things like that, but we don't have a equipment replacement fund to replace our pools, do we?
We do not, and that is one of the policy changes that I would, that I plan on bringing to council sometime in the future.
And to Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel's point about like, okay, well, if these pools weren't running, we'd still have this $1.5 million overhead and it would just be absorbed elsewhere. So I'd just really like to know how that's broken down, because if that overhead is spread out amongst many different realms of the city, then I'd love to know, okay, well, what portion of that overhead should be really charged back to Aquatics, so we can get a much more accurate depiction as to the cost recovery, because if it's like, well, yeah, that's being charged back to the pools, but hey, that's also running all the summer programs at Rec Park, or, I guess I like to think about it as fine, Parks and Rec, it's not called Parks and Rec anymore, what is it called? Parks and Rec. Is? Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, community services. So community services does payroll, right? So someone has to handle all those time cards and everything else. And so it's like, okay, well, how many employees in community services are aquatic employees? So then, okay, that overhead should be, proportioned out accordingly. I just, I don't think we're getting a true accurate assessment as to, from a non-swimmer in the city of El Segundo saying, are you kidding me? 53% overall total cost recovery? Like, that's insane that we're subsidizing 47%. And so I just think that would be helpful for the public to know how that all works, because we are a very complex city and we do many different things, and people such as yourself wear more than one hat. And so we understand how that works, but I don't want you to think that I think it's very simple to produce what you produced here. And to break that down, it's likely very difficult and nearly impossible. But if you could, that would be helpful.
And then to tag on to what Mr. Nickel was mentioning, can we see that compared, the cost recovery for the aquatics versus the cost recovery for the baseball fields, for the cost recovery for the pickleball, for the cost recovery for the tennis? If we're going to look at this and start charging additive money to aquatics because we're trying to hit some number, we need to put that in comparison to the other sports that we also subsidize in this community.
Okay, just one point of clarification. When I think of direct costs, Joe, aquatics labor would be included in direct costs, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So any overhead would be department oversight and management. So is that right?
It is a little complex, but a lot of it is the administration that goes on.
Okay. So one thing I have to ask then is it accurate that if we reduced a pool, we would not then subsequently want to reduce our administrative burden and expense, our overhead? You would need less people to manage that asset and those people. Isn't that correct?
Yes and no. And I'll give you one example. So my payroll falls under my department. We cut over 300 paychecks every pay period. That includes part-timers. And a portion of, so let's say there's 300 paychecks and 100 paychecks are associated with aquatic programming. So that then gets costed out. Okay, well, we have, that percentage of payroll gets allocated to the overhead. And, POs, what are the total amount of invoices and POs processed compared to citywide? What portion are allocated and processed to the aquatic programming? That gets allocated out. How many staff reports are on city council agenda that are related to aquatics? And that gets, city clerk's time gets allocated. So it's very complex.
I get that, but at the highest level, if you have one less asset to manage with less people, less minimum fixed staffing, there will be less of all that activity administratively that you just mentioned. So I just want to clarify that.
Portion of it, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Mitnick.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, to answer your question, that's correct. It depends on the service you're talking about. Now, aquatics can be very, involve a lot of staff time, a lot of overhead, so it's opportunity cost. By eliminating one type of program, does that translate to less staff needed to support it? Maybe. If 2 or 3 programs were eliminated, definitely. But it's opportunity cost. The fact that we're talking about pools right now, if we didn't have pools, we wouldn't be talking about it, we'd be doing other things. So we can't just say you eliminate this, you eliminate overhead. It depends. It does depend.
That's why I think, to my colleague's point, it would be really instructive to break that down, to understand how that is calculated.
Understood.
Okay. So getting back to, is there any further discussion before we discuss whether or not we want to address any of the components of the current aquatic fee structure? Okay. Does anyone have an appetite for an increase in any component of the current aquatic fee structure? No. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion or discuss, what is it? Is it a inflation index, Joe, that we'd basically be putting on the fee structure?
Annual inflation.
Starting when?
July
Yes, sir.
July 1st. No, go ahead.
So, we would bring it to council in April. It would be effective, July 1st, and we're using the March, CPIU for LA, Long Beach, Anaheim area.
Anyone interested in doing that? Yes? Would you like to move approval of that?
Giroux, so moved.
Great, thank you. Do we have a second? Boyle's second. Any further discussion?
So I just wanted to find out if, are we doing this for all of the Parks and Recs, or is this just aquatics?
Mr. Minnick?
This is for aquatics. There are other fees that will be part of the fee schedule discussion later on. But we were asked to come back with a report on aquatics, and that's what tonight's purpose is.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We have a first and a second. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please take a voice vote?
Councilmember Drew,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
No.
Councilmember Perstuck,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel,
No.
and Mayor Boyle.
Yes.
Okay, it failed.
Okay, no appetite for that. That concludes aquatics. Thank you, Mr. Lilio. Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. Okay, next up, we have 2021-2022 Fire Department Budget Reductions Follow-Up Report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I will present the report. I will walk you through our PowerPoint. We have about 10 slides. I also have available for questions our new fire chief. Today's day 1 for Dina Lee, fire chief, and Joe Lilio, our chief financial officer. He's in the council chamber right now. I'm starting off slow because he's going to queue up the presentation. This is item 13 on the agenda. While Joe is putting that up there, City Council, this is a report following up to your direction from the June 15th, 2021 public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 21-22 for July 1 through June 30th. The budget was adopted. You did approve that. Part of your direction was for us to go back and come up with recurring expenditure savings in the fire department at $1 million. And that's what we're going to do tonight. But before I start that, I just want to remind the council that this last budget was very difficult for the city of El Segundo, as it was for most local governments in California due to the pandemic and other pressures on our economy. Here in El Segundo, as a reminder, council, our general fund revenues were down significantly. General fund revenues were down $9 million. So we were down about 11%. So it was tough, and all of the departments had to go through a series of budget reduction exercises to get to the proposed budget hearing on that night. And in the fire, and by the way, throughout the city, we did do a variety of things to come up with the $9 million, including freezing 23.5 positions. We also used one-time OPEB trust funds. We used some fund balance. We reduced line items across the board, 1.5 million, and we reduced the equipment replacement fund contribution of $900,000. So those were some tough decisions. As we go into next fiscal year, City Council, we have to still figure out how do we put that money back. Before we talk about taking on new things, we have to look at how do we bring back the frozen positions? How do we start paying back the equipment replacement fund? How are we going to put back money into the fund balance that we took out? We're going to adhere to your financial and budget policies. We have to deal with those items. So just a reminder, we have to deal with that. All right, so on top of that, we were told, go out and see what you can do to come up with $1 million. All right, so now we have the fire department budget. When we started the budget process for this department, their budget was going to be 14.8 million. So before we came to council, we had to do a reduction of about $1 million. And this slide up here shows you how we dealt with that for this department. So for this department, the equipment replacement fund contribution was reduced by $500,000. We froze 3 positions: a firefighter paramedic, the fire marshal, and a fire prevention specialist. So 2 civilian positions, non-sworn, and 1 sworn. So they were frozen. They were not funded. They're still not funded. The fire marshal is a critical position. It's not funded. We'll talk about that. In addition, to get to a proposed balanced budget for this department, we cut out $100,000 in line items. So pretty tough to get to that point. Can we go to the next slide? At the hearing, again, to reiterate, you directed us to come back with $1 million in recurring expenditure reductions. You also directed us for next year's budget for the police and fire departments to use a zero-based budget methodology. Basically, you start from scratch and say, okay, we're going to build a police department and a fire department for El Segundo. What are our needs? How do we do it? Then we're going to come forward with a proposed budget. Okay, next slide. So, in digesting your direction from that night, staff from different departments, but primarily your chief financial officer and your new fire chief, who was then interim fire chief or acting fire chief, and myself and other staff, we sat down and we looked at what options there could be. Some of these options you're familiar with. One of these options the community voted on many years ago, or several years ago. So this is not an exclusive list, it's just a sample list of options or tools in your toolbox. First one, we could contract with Los Angeles County. A number of cities have done that. We've had South Bay cities have done that. It's estimated we would save up to $5 million a year. It's a lot of bang for your buck there. But to go in this direction, it's a multi-year effort. It involves an election of our residents. The next, one of the other options is to merge with an adjacent city, such as Los Angeles or Manhattan Beach, or a group of cities, and we can have some economies of scale, and we could save, it's estimated, $2 to $5 million a year. Another option, and that takes time. You'd have to have 2 or more cities agree to do it, and you have to implement it. It takes many years to do it. Another option is to shut down a fire engine at Station 32. To do that, we would save upwards of $2 million. Another option is to permanently contract with a private ambulance company, save up to $850,000. So privatize your ambulance service. I'm sorry, council, it's hard with this mask. This municipality, we provide a municipal ambulance service, so it's not private. There are savings if you wanted to go in that direction. A fifth option is to shut down permanently rescue ambulance number 32. So just shut down one of our 2 ambulances and operate just one. That would save upwards of $850,000. The sixth option up here is to suspend fire engine 32 for a whole year, and that would save $900,000. So we sat down, we looked at those, and we're proposing to achieve your target, a variation of that last recommendation, recommendation 6, and that involves suspending fire engine 32 for the remainder of this fiscal year, 8 more months. Now, the fire department is in the currently has suspended 32, more or less, for a couple of months due to staffing issues. All right, so the recommendation is to do this for a trial period for 8 months. Then, as the second bullet indicates, come back toward the end of the fiscal year and assess the impacts. And those impacts would involve financial impacts. What has been the impact on our budget? Service impacts, has it impacted response times and ability to deal with the calls that we respond to? And then we'll look also at the staff impacts.
Mr. Minnick, I'm going to let you get on with the presentation, but one quick question, because we have people doubtless walking at home. Could we perhaps define to them who are not in the fire service what a fire engine is, what that entails, what that looks like when they see it, how many people are on it?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that,
Very well.
okay? Let me give you the broad overview,
Yep.
and then we'll go in and we'll talk about what a rescue engine is, what an engine is, and all that. Okay, so the recommendation, the details of our recommendation, because it's a multifaceted recommendation. The first one, again, we suspend engine 32, as we talked about, for 8 months. We've done the math, we can save up to $600,000 by doing that. So the net effect of that, we would reduce the daily staffing that we have out there from 14 individuals to 11. Nobody gets laid off, nobody loses a job. It's just the amount of people that would be staffing would drop from 14 to 11. This involves overtime hours and so on. The second component of the proposal is we underfill the vacant battalion chief position that your new fire chief, Dina Lee, used to occupy. Now that's vacant. So we're proposing to underfill that with a temporary special projects administrator, which is really like a part-time battalion chief. Somebody who's retired can come in and fill that for a few months. We can save, by doing that, we'd save $250,000 for the 8 months. The third component of our recommendation is to freeze a battalion chief position, another position that's occupied by an individual who has stated that he's going to retire. That person's not on duty right now. But when that person retires, we can then fill that position with the fire marshal position, the position I mentioned earlier that's frozen. We actually need that position. That will save us $150,000. Next slide for the remaining components. The first two remaining components here, these are already in the budget. We're just reiterating, we're recommending to continue to freeze the frozen firefighter paramedic position, maintain the frozen fire prevention specialist position. I mean, ultimately, we need these, or at least the fire prevention specialists we're gonna need back at some point, but we can go another 8 months. The last three components, one is to continue to work with Redondo Beach and Manhattan Beach. As the council will recall, and for the members of the public, we are talking very openly with 2 other beach cities about sharing fire service, and to do that by starting to share a battalion chief. Manhattan Beach and El Segundo very much interested in this. Redondo Beach, maybe, they're studying right now the possibility of joining LA County. So we have to wait for that city to do it. It makes sense for the 3 cities to share a battalion chief the way the staffing levels work. If we could do that, we would all save some money. And then we're also recommending that we complete the fire service accreditation study, and that'll be done by April 1st. And then the last bullet is to review transferring from Disaster Management Service Area G, which is the South Bay, to Area A, which is primarily Santa Monica, Culver City, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, and portions of LA that are right on our border. There may be some benefits to us, especially if we get into more mutual aid usage. All right, so for the council member who asked about the staffing. So right now, here's what we have. Let me just give the overview, then we can have Dina Lee explain what this means more technically. So today with our 2 fire stations, Fire Station 31 is the headquarters facility right here on Main Street. Right now, between that station and 32 is the one over on the east side of town, other side of PCH, right by the Lakers facility and Campus El Segundo. Of the 2 stations, on Station 31, there are 6 staff, and there's 8 at Station 32. Station 31 has a battalion chief Engine 31 has 3 people, the rescue, which is the ambulance, has 2. For Station 32, on the engine, there's 3, the truck, there's 3, and the ambulance, there's 2, for a total of 8. We'll come back and explain what all that means, but let's go to the next slide. So we're proposing, the new proposal is you keep 31 with 6, but on 32, you go from 8 to 5, because engine 32 would be suspended. So that would give us 11. And by way of example, with Manhattan Beach to the south, they have twice the residential population, but they have a much smaller, they have a smaller commercial industrial office population. Their system right now, they have 9 staff, where this would be 11, and currently we have 14. And with their 2 stations, they total 6 and 3. They have a different model. They have more calls than we do, notably more calls. They use less personnel. They use mutual aid a little bit more than we do. Going to this model, full disclosure, we would likely have to rely on mutual aid more. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but that is a reality. And we go to the next slide. Okay, again, at the end of the 8-month trial period, we come back, assess the impacts. We begin the zero-based budget approach for next year. And the bottom line here, council, this speaks to how you would like us to make decisions. The data will drive conclusions and recommendations. So that's our presentation. That's at the high level. Chief Lee is here. If you would like her to explain, we can go back to the slide, Joe, that shows the current staffing. If the council likes, she can walk you through what that is, what it means, and then what would happen if we go to 11. Would you like that, or would you like us just to answer questions?
Let's see what questions the council has. Scott, thank you.
I have a question. So how much do we pay for mutual aid? And do we pay by usage? So you said that Manhattan Beach uses mutual aid much more often than we do. Do we pay a flat fee, or is it usage fee, and how does mutual aid work?
I'll take a stab at it, then I can have the chief clarify. We don't pay for that. We run our fire department. We are available when we are called on. If we go out to a federally declared or a state declared disaster or emergency, there's reimbursement for that. But just helping out with the other cities around us on mutual aid, I don't believe we pay or we get paid when we provide service. Yeah.
So that means, Manhattan Beach is taking it, not taking advantage, but they're they're using mutual aid much, by what percentage? Are they using it? Do you have the numbers?
Can I come up here? This year so far, they have come over here to provide mutual aid for us 9 times. We've gone over there 31 times. That's in 2021 right now.
So that's a huge difference, 9 versus 31. So we're basically funding them by...
Yeah, exactly. Because they are lower staffed than we are, they need mutual aid more. So if we lower our staff, then we'll be in the same situation.
Could you make a counter argument that we're so well staffed that we can get there quickly because we have more staff than them, and we have less going on, so we could actually get there faster, knowing they have twice as much activity roughly?
Well, yeah, I think it's important because for an EMS call, we're averaging 5 minutes that we're at the door, and that's important because your brain or your heart, will die in 4 to 6 minutes. And we have an engine and a rescue ambulance with 2 paramedics at your door within 5 minutes consistently. And 38% of the time we have overlapping incidents where while we're on one call, another call comes in. So that's why we have that backup engine. It's not just for fires. That second engine actually provides a second hose line when we go inside on a fire. And if we shut down that engine 32, then that second engine, we're going to have to wait for it to come from Manhattan Beach to pull that second hose line in.
Do we ever roll the rescue and the engine separately?
We've done like a rescue minor for something a real minor.
So we would, that's
medical
something,
injury.
I guess that, well, I guess the question I'm getting at is when we think that we may have to ask for mutual aid, but if those two always roll as a package now, our deployment doesn't look any different if we don't have that engine, right? I mean, in terms of our ability to go different directions.
I see your point. So how we would, if we got a call right now, we would have the 3 on the engine and the 2 paramedics on the rescue ambulance, and we
Yeah.
would go to that call. Next call comes in. If engine 32 disappears, we'll use truck 32 and the rescue 32 from station 2. Okay, now the next call, we don't have anybody left.
So we wouldn't be able to do that now? Even if
Yeah, we have, each heavy, the 2 engines and the truck have ALS, advanced life support equipment, and a paramedic. So you will always have a paramedic with those 3 heavies at your door, and we'll use those 2 rescue ambulances for transport.
Okay.
I have one other question. So I know that for transporting down to like a hospital, Torrance Memorial, a lot of times our paramedics go down and they wait at the hospital, right? Is there a way for us not to, like, once they drop off the patient, how long does the average wait? And can we change the practice so that they don't wait there, so they can be ready for additional calls back here in El Segundo?
Yes, so that's a good point. The wait times are increasing right now because there's some recent rules with transporting the homeless population. So we are finding that they're staying at the hospital longer. And I am looking into solutions for those situations, but we do try to return as soon as possible back to provide service to the city. Torrance has an ambulance program now, a basic life support ambulance that we would consider utilizing because we have paramedics that are always here on the engines and the trucks, so we could utilize that ambulance to help transport with our paramedics if both of those rescue ambulances with the paramedics are tied up.
So what is the average, can you just say what the average wait time is at the hospitals now?
I would say probably, I'm guessing, I don't have that here, but like an hour, maybe. The total turnaround time is like an hour and a half.
Yeah, so that's a long time out of our city limits,
Correct.
which if we could drop off and come back quicker would be, and I know it's a bigger question, but is it our policy to wait, or is that the hospital's policy for us to wait?
It are the Department of Health, this is DHS rules that we're following about, it would be like abandoning a patient pretty much, so they're following their paramedic rules, and we're working on those things right now. But you bring up a good point that if one rescue ambulance is at the hospital, we still have one here,
Scott, we are pretty unique in that what other cities around us have ambulatory services that are privatized?
Oh, a number, isn't Redondo Beach part of theirs private?
Yeah, but there's a new assembly bill that they might start transporting again. They didn't have their transporting rights, which is why they had to contract with McCormick. And we actually looked into, that's the local ambulance company, we looked into contracting with McCormick. And they could only promise us a 15-minute ETA for a transporting ambulance for advanced life support and a 30-minute ETA for basic life support. So that is an option, but I'm not happy with that response time.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're not debating the pros and cons of it, but there are a number of municipalities that use private ambulance services. I've worked in cities with both, and there are pros and cons, but there are many cities that have private ambulance service, and they're very happy with it. There are others that use the city service, and they're very happy with that. It is more expensive to have a municipal ambulance service. If that's a value to the council, we have to figure out how to pay for it. This is a basic math exercise. We have an appetite to spend more than we take in. We're a relatively low tax city. So the other examples of cities that have all these additional services, they probably have additional revenues. But again, it's a policy choice. And the beauty with what's proposed versus doing the more draconian $1 million expenditure cut recurring permanently is you have an 8-month trial period. Do it, you can see what the results are. And then you can make decisions based on those results.
If I may, I think that with people watching at home, singularly what the residents of El Segundo, and I will say me included, expect and want, is they're willing to pay for a premium service because they want a premium service. So when somebody drops to a knee or their child gets hurt, they want 5 minutes to be the exact longest they would ever have to wait for service. So I think if we could just spell out here clearly that if the team at Station 31 goes to Nash, and the team at 32 goes to Walnut, and then somebody else falls out of a treehouse, is there a difference in the way we handle it tomorrow, if we do this, than the way we handle it today? So 3 calls for service. Right now, are we calling for mutual aid on the 3rd call?
You would get the truck.
You would get the
with
truck.
Paramedics, and then we would have to call for a transporting ambulance, and Manhattan will help us out.
And so that's even right now, we would do that.
Yes, sir.
So that does not change. So people watching at home, the level of service they get, how we would approach it, does not change. You may get a different face, because we might have a mutual aid from Manhattan Beach, but we would do that today, and we would do that tomorrow under this plan, because 3 calls for service concurrently require a transportation agency that we do not have for 3 calls for service. So there's no difference in that 3rd call today than there is tomorrow, except maybe the faces that you see on it. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, but we do go on an assortment of calls. Yesterday, we had a mattress on fire off of East Maple, and when we had that fire, at the same time, we had another fire alarm that was at the exact same time it happens.
Was that other alarm a fire or just an alarm?
It was just an alarm.
And are most of the calls for fire alarms fires, or mostly just false alarms?
Well, we have, let's see, our false alarms this year are at 11.74%, and I'm working on reducing the number of false alarms. We're working with fees for charging for false alarms and get that number to go down. We've also reduced, we've changed our response to false alarms from the entire department responding to a false alarm to a single engine for better use of resources within El Segundo.
Yeah, and I would like to give Chief Lee credit for that, because we talked about it and she agreed to implement that as a cost-saving measure and good use of staff.
That was, I have 2 questions if you're done, Mr. Pimentel.
I guess I want to beat up on these things because the terminology of a rescue and an engine and all these things may not necessarily resonate with people watching at home. That when we talk engines, we are not talking about the thing that transports you to the hospital, which is the overwhelming majority of what our calls for service are rescues and not fires.
Yeah, but let me clarify that when you have a medical emergency, a heart attack, that you're going to get the fire engine and the rescue ambulance. We need those 5 people to treat your medical emergency, and then the 2 paramedics will be transporting and the engine will stay here. And I mean, just, you wanted to know what is a fire engine and what's a truck. Like the fire engine has 500 gallons of water, 2,000 plus feet of hose, tools, and the EMS equipment. The truck is the big 105-foot aerial ladder that has the specialty equipment, the jaws of life, technical rescue, those type of things. Also EMS equipment.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I think a lot of people watching, when they think truck, they think it's the Suburban that you have at your disposal, and that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the ladder truck.
Right.
You partially answered one of my questions.
Okay.
And I guess that then led me to another question.
Mm-hmm.
So our neighbor to the south, Manhattan Beach, you said they staff 8 regularly?
9.
9.
Mm-hmm.
Is that 3 vehicles or 2 vehicles?
They have an engine and a rescue ambulance and a battalion chief at Station 1, and then they have 1 engine at their Station 2.
With 3 people.
With 3 people, yeah.
Okay, so, because you just said if you have a major medical situation, you want you need all 5 of those people there.
Yeah,
3 from the truck and 2 from the rescue.
Correct.
So when we do mutual aid, are there numerous occasions where we're sending our truck and our rescue for mutual aid?
Yes. If there is a fire in Manhattan Beach right now, we'll send a battalion chief, we'll send an engine, and we'll send a truck.
Yeah, that's, I guess, because my original question I was going to ask, but then you answered, was I'm thinking like, okay, you know, my daughter breaks her arm in the garage, right? And we call 911. Does that need 5 people to help her? Or is that just, it does, it takes all 5?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Well, your opinion matters, and that's why we're asking you.
Yeah.
You know, because when you said another call comes in, then we have to go out for mutual aid, and I guess my pragmatic brain is thinking, well, if a call comes in and here it is, it was a laceration on the finger and the 2 paramedics have it, we can dispatch the truck from that location.
Right.
or the rescue, or the engine from that location to the next call? Or is it, nope, our standard operating procedure is when you're on a call, you're there from the beginning till the end, and it is what it is?
No, you're correct, and our captains do that a lot. Well, they would be listening to the radio, and
Yeah.
they'll cut themselves loose, assess the situation. It depends on what it is, but if it is a child with a broken arm, we need one person to hold it, one person to splint it, one person to talk to the mom, and, we're all there doing the job.
Yeah. All right, I just wanted to make sure, because many of the questions that, I guess, I can't speak for my fellow council members, but that I like to ask is to have you answer the question so the public can hear your answer, so they can understand more about what decision it is that we have before us and what we're considering and how that might change their life as they know it. So I guess the last question I have, in your professional opinion, with what is being proposed before us now, should I, as a resident of El Segundo, be concerned at all about the level of service I will receive?
In my professional opinion, yes. We don't have enough empirical data to show that shutting down this engine is going to be safe for the community. If this is a test, I'm not willing to experiment with the residents of El Segundo.
But is it not true that that engine has been browned out numerous times for staffing?
No, so I was going to bring that up, that we have been running it down, but they've been running together with two people. We've been running short in the engineer's position because the fire engineers are staffed, that we don't have enough in that one particular rank. And the engineers were working 6, 7, 8, 9 days in a row being force hired. And I had to do something. I couldn't bring people back from IOD or cancel their vacation. And so I had to brown that out, the engineer spot. But the other two were here. What the city manager is recommending is that we would not hire the engineer, the captain, and the firefighter that are on that. And so then it would look a little different.
When we say hire, I think it's important, right? That's a little bit of a term of art in the fire service. Those people are already full-time employees.
Yes.
So when we talk about hiring, it's not going to the market, to the fire academy and finding someone. It's the way we staff. It's a bit of a term of art, and I think that might muddy it. But I think that the one thing maybe my colleagues and I struggle with a bit is coming back to Manhattan Beach, whose nighttime population is twice ours, but staffs at 2/3 of our level at night. Are they just doing that simply by, part of the term, parasitically loading us with mutual aid calls?
Yes, sir.
Well, now that's an important tidbit.
Get
Hildy online too over here, Cole.
What I would be willing, what I feel safe with is to continue this battalion chief merger, because then what we're doing is you're just waiting a couple extra minutes for a battalion chief who's going to run the scene, that the firefighters that come on scene are going to be doing the critical tasks, and then I feel comfortable with that. This person that we're going to be hiring as a battalion chief, special projects coordinator, is going to help me get all that information on what it's going to take to make that battalion chief merger happen. We possibly won't ever have to rehire for my battalion chief spot. And, that would save the total comp of a battalion chief.
So, Chief and everybody, so look, in the end, the council has made a consistent move, concerted really, effort to move towards data and metrics-based approach to everything we do, not just fire, police, finance, aquatics, as you've seen, all of it. So this is across the board, all right? Because we need to use the data and metrics to evaluate what we're doing. So it's essential to keep moving in that direction so that the decisions we make here are based on fact and backed up by data. So we can really no longer maintain the status quo of saying this is the way we've done things, this is the best practices, this is this, because in the end, as an organization, we need to do a deep dive in how we can be more efficient and thus more effective in the way we do things. And again, we're not limiting this to fire, but this is just something I think in order to make proper decisions up here, we need to know what the real situation is. So I respect the fact that you said that you're not willing to take the chance to gain the data, but the reality is We can't, it's an unsustainable situation with the way it's running right now. And we need data to make the right decisions. We might find out that this 8 months after we do this, we might find out, oh my God, that was a really bad idea. All right, but to always be scared that the boogeyman's around the corner, you can't, I don't think we can operate like that. And that's not just here, that goes across every single division. So I thought what staff came up with as far as recommendations was very creative. You know, one of the things they could have done right away is said, hey, we're just gonna knock staff off. We're gonna make it real easy. We're gonna have a recurring expense by just reducing staff. We didn't do that. So I really believe that what was done here, that took a long time to come up with. And I thought it was a very good compromise so that everyone maintains their job, okay? And we learn something in the process. So as far as I'm concerned, I thought the presentation was great. I respect your opinion on this, and I understand the situation you're in, but I feel we have to start moving in a direction to learn what the right way to do things is going forward, not based on what we've done in the past or what we might think might happen, but on actual hard data.
Okay, if I may, I have a couple of responses to that. So the data that we're bringing forward, and I have sent every incident that we've ever had since 2003 to the city manager to evaluate the data. Right now we have data based on 14 firefighters and what our response times are and the property damage. And so that's based on 14. So if we go with this plan, if you decide to go to this plan, then we will come back in 8 months with the data running down to 11. And then you'll have that data. Also, just to add on to that, we're 3/4 of the way through the accreditation process. And that is going to bring information and data, and based on the hazards in this town, you know, with 23 high rises, all the target hazards that we have, the refinery, if we need to complete that process, we've already spent over $90,000 on that accreditation, and that will be completed by April of 2022.
Chief, I have a question. What is the most recent response time?
I have it right here. I pulled up what we've done in 2021. Fire Station 1 EMS calls 5 minutes and 12 seconds. Fire 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Fire Station 2 EMS 4 minutes 56 seconds. Fire 5 minutes and 50 seconds.
And do you happen to know what Manhattan Beach runs?
Their response times, I don't know, but I could get that information.
Okay, were you involved with Mr. Mitnick in coming up with the recommendations?
Yes.
Okay, and you thought that the most salient, less unsafe
Right.
recommendation would be not to suspend engine 32?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I just have one question. So I know you don't have the current Manhattan Beach numbers, but do you know, was there a drop in their service when they went down to the lower number? That would be interesting to know. And then if we do brown out for 8 months, engine 32, so we're not eliminating any headcount? Is that just primarily limiting overtime? Or how does that work? And what percentage of it is overtime that we'll be eliminating? And then the third question is, you know, if we said we're gonna brown out the engine 32 during the evening hours, the night hours versus the day, like, do you have different staffing levels day and night? Because,
No.
so maybe it's a hybrid where you say, because the number of people come down dramatically in the evening, maybe it's a browning out engine 32 in the evening hours because, we're on 24-hour schedule, so, well, we can't do that, so. Maybe we change the 24-hour schedule, like, maybe that's something we look at because, you know, obviously the number of people in our town is dramatically different in the evening versus the day. So maybe we should be looking at the 24-hour schedule.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, the question you asked if Chief Lee agreed with the recommendation, item number 6, to suspend the truck, the fire engine 32 for a full year? Is that what you asked?
Yeah.
But Chief Lee, I thought you just told me.
I asked her if she was involved in the recommendations, and she thought that the most salient, productive, least unsafe recommendation was that one.
Was number 6.
Yeah.
But when I asked my question, you stated to me that you don't feel like that it's the right thing to do. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm trying to understand, because to Councilmember Giroux's point, there's data out there. The world is driven by data. We have data. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, like, I guarantee you we could look at the data and have averages for which day of the week is our heavy call day. And do we have more calls on the weekend or more calls during the week? And do we have more false alarm fires on the weekend because people are not in those buildings and there's not someone there that can be called to say, no, there's not a fire, right? So we're responding to things. So, I mean, there's data out there. We can have it and we can produce it. We also have data on what days of the week are we typically called in for mutual aid, right? Because the doomsday situation of that third call at the same time, which now, and Manhattan Beach could be on their second or third call at the same time as well.
Yeah.
And now we're calling LA City, right, from Westchester for mutual aid to come over. And that third call is Drew's daughter or son or Chris's kids, right, or Lance's son. And it's no one wants to be in that situation, right? And I feel like when you're weighing the potential risk for the level of service that we've always had in this town, that we expect in this town, and when you survey this town, they tell you the most important things to them. And I can tell you right now, I am never going to put a dollar figure on the potential safety of any resident's life or child's life. And that's why I asked you that question.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand, I get it. You know, and I pay attention to the call logs, and I can see that the calls are down, and I can see a lot of them are false alarms. You know, but it's just understanding the risk potential. You know, if you would have told me no, you know, Councilmember Nickel, that I don't think any resident will notice a difference. We're fine. I feel comfortable. I feel safe. I mean, you're the professional in that field, not me. You know,
If I can throw in that, just to make sure, because I asked that question, if the level of service today with 14, and if we went with the staffing plan of 11, and we had that 3-call scenario, there would still be no difference. That third call might have slightly different faces, because we'll see a different, whichever mutual aid crew comes from Manhattan Beach, but they would get a crew from Manhattan Beach today, and they would tomorrow on that third call. So that part, again, I understand your professional opinion on this is that you still want to be as many of our people as possible. I'm gonna ask this, and this is, I hesitate to ever get in the weeds of tactical deployment here, but how often are both of our engines pumping water to put out fires at the same time?
That's not the way it works. I would have to explain the whole firefighting operation. But we do need that second, so I can explain.
Well, because the second one has the truck with the, right, we've got one that pumps water, one with a ladder. And this plan that is put forward has a ladder truck and a fire engine that pumps water, as opposed to having two that pump water also with a ladder truck.
Okay, I'll just make it simple, and for everyone that's watching too, is that when we have a fire and we're gonna use a 2,000 square foot house as an example, okay, like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's recommended to have 17 firefighters to effectively extinguish that fire, to all the critical tasks that are required to put out a fire. The first engine pulls the first hose line in, okay, that would be engine 31. And because we fight fire aggressively, but we provide for safety first. So those 2 people go in, we have to have, for Cal OSHA 29 CFR 1910, we have to have 2 out, because that's an immediately dangerous to life and health if there's smoke and flames inside of the house. Okay, so we've got the 2 in, we've got the 2 out. We're waiting for the engine, the second engine to come to help with the water supply, maybe to pump from the hydrant to that first engine. The truck is coming to cut a hole in the roof to let the smoke and fire gases out the top and make it tenable inside so our guys can go in and fight the fire. The Manhattan Beach engine will become our rapid intervention crew. They're the safety component so that if any of our people go down inside the house, that they're there to rescue us. And this is how fire departments run all over the country. You know, these are just the basic steps. So in a fire situation, then we would be waiting for that second engine, for that second hose line, and that help with the hydrant from Manhattan Beach. And then we'd have to wait for the next for the rapid intervention crew. So everything is delayed. And I mean, I could stand up here and tell you there will be increased risk to life safety and there will be increased property damage. And we have the property damage, you know, because it's taking us longer to put the fire out. Now, this year so far, we've had 58 total fires, 14 building fires, significant building fires. And so we do get fires, not that many, but we do, you know, and to me that, you know, as a firefighter and that I've been working here as a firefighter for El Segundo for 18 years, you know, that this is hard for me because this is keeping people safe and doing what I've trained to do, you know. So to your point, Mayor Boyles, is that, you know, it was just, I know you're making a difficult decision here, but, you know, it's more difficult for me, I think.
Chief, I got a question. Were you done, Mayor Pro Tem?
Look, I mean, I guess I was just going to contribute that it's an impossibly difficult decision, right? It's 1.5 structure fires per month, but we're dealing with people's lives. We do the same thing with the police when you know, and I made the comment with Chief before he retired, right? That no one ever says they have too many troops, right? And we made tough decisions on that. Fire departments are also prohibitively expensive. Now, we say we can't put a price on anything, but we demonstrably do. We spend $14 million in direct costs, plus the retirements, plus $4.5 million in workman's comp claims. And I don't know how many workman's comp claims it is over the last 4 years, 60-odd workman's comp claims. I mean, it's an incredibly expensive endeavor to have your own agency. Demonstrably, there is no appetite in this city to go to county, nor do I want one, right? We like the firefighters we have. We like to see the ones we have. You know, we like them to show up at birthday parties. It's great. So it is a heck of a position, right? It's a premium service. And I know that Councilmember Nickel and I spent the first 3 years here just figuring out ways to pay for the pension costs we already incurred. It's really, 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 really difficult. And this is a difficult piece, right? Especially if the chiefs say, in my professional opinion, this is what I think we need. And then we're sitting here sorting out being the you know, there's a reason that the Secretary of Defense is very rarely a general, right? They have civilian oversight of it, but you end up asking these weird questions. So, Chief, thank you for your input. Over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Well said. Just more of a tactical question. How many occasions have we had 3 medical incidents at a time, roughly, throughout the year?
I don't have that exact data. I just have overlapping incidents. So it's about 35% of the time that we have overlapping incidents. That would be one thing that I would need to collect, is how do we collect that data on that when we get that third call?
Okay, thank you.
I just have one question. In one of the options, have we ever thought about charging for mutual aid if there's an imbalance? Because there obviously seems to be an imbalance with Manhattan Beach. And can we recoup some of those funds? I mean, it would be cheaper for them to pay us for the mutual aid than to bring back their expanding back their current staffing. So have we looked into charging back Manhattan Beach for, because I mean, it seems like it's 3 to 1, basically.
Yeah, we did discuss that. We would have to do more research on that, like charging like $300 per call, or, you know, I don't know what the fee would be.
But the fully burdened rate.
But I think in a way they have, right? The idea of sharing command staff, because right now for this volume of mutual aid calls, you're de facto having a battalion chief who is a shared resource anyhow, if the battalion chief is going on those calls. So I think that in a way, the idea of a cost sharing with some form of merged service is already sort of mooted in the future in here. And I think that hearing these numbers, I see the wisdom in it maybe in a way that I had not previously, because I don't think that, clearly you can tell by the sound of it, the 5 of us had not really appreciated fully the degree to which we were providing mutual aid with our neighbors. I'm glad we have such a great relationship with them, that we are able to work so interchangeably. I mean, it speaks very highly of the collaboration that the command staff that you guys have works with them. But it is, I mean, that is something that seems far more viable than I probably had originally thought.
Councilmember Drew.
So, Chief, I don't want this to come across as argumentative, but I have to ask questions, okay? Please understand. All right, so the first thing I have is you mentioned about best practices and the recommendations. Who writes those?
I have that down. The Center for Public Safety Excellence, Underwriters Laboratory, National Fire Protection Agency, National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Okay, so it generally is best practices in a situation like that from agencies like this who don't really have any responsibility in the game other than to suggest that more is better, correct?
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So it's not really based on individual municipalities or situations, it's based on an overarching idea of what, kind of a blanket statement of what they feel, of what is felt as safe.
It's based on science, on data from many fires and how many firefighters it takes to put out a certain fuel load.
But would that also take into consideration inner cities, places, downtown LA versus the beach cities, for example?
No, I mean, the fires, it takes the same amount of firefighters wherever the fire is.
Okay, so then my second thing is that in your opinion, is Manhattan Beach Fire Department a well-run organization? I mean, because look, they're staffed a certain way. They run their business a certain way. Are we saying that their way is unsafe?
So if you want to rely heavily on mutual aid, then you will be like Manhattan Beach. If you want to staff, we used to
But
be
it's not the
staffed-
question I asked. The question is, in
Okay.
your professional opinion, because you've worked with them,
Mhm.
is it a well-run organization or are they deficient?
I think the way they're running now with getting 3 of our units on every fire that they have, I mean, I'm not gonna, I don't have enough information on Manhattan Beach Fire Department. I'm saying based on how we respond to fires. We train with them all the time. I know they have a high standard themselves. I know that they're excellent on EMS calls. They're excellent on fires. Been going on fires with them for 18 years. I don't know when they were at 9. I would never want to, I don't know why they are that low. I would venture to say that because it is a bedroom community, that we need more firefighters and more trucks and engines if we have a refinery and 23 high-rises and 300 hazardous materials occupancies.
A refinery does have a fire department, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Minnick.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this report had many months of effort, a collaborative approach. This illustrates the challenges we face in local government to balance the budget. There are risks in every department. We have risks throughout this city. We have roads that are not maintained at levels that we would like them to be maintained at. We have facilities that are not maintained at levels that we would like them to be at. It's about choices. And what's in front of you is a trial period. We take risk every day. And this risk that we're talking about, you're hearing a lot of hypothetical here. I'm perfectly comfortable, based on 3 decades in this business, that if we do this and we look at the data, then we can make a better decision. To beat up on a neighboring city with allegations that they're taking advantage of us, first thing I'm gonna do when this meeting's over, I'm gonna call Bruce Moe in Manhattan Beach, and I'm gonna let him know this was not anticipated, and I'm sorry, this city is not making publicly disparaging comments about a neighboring city in the public. I don't have any evidence that Manhattan Beach is taking advantage of El Segundo. I don't even want to go there. So you have a professional recommendation in front of you that the fire department, finance department, the HR department, the city manager's office worked long and hard on in response to your direction. If you don't like that, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. But all this talk about exposure and all that, we need to be very careful here. Let's look at the data. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it, because we're not talking about permanently taking away the truck. So I think we talked enough. We asked if you have any further questions, but make a decision. We will implement what you direct us to do. I will tell you, with respect to the fire marshal position, having given it some more thought, we should fill that. I would like the authorization to figure out, for us to fill that position because of all the land use, development applications and so on, and we owe it to this community to provide that service. The fire department's not the only department that has at risk. The police department has a number of positions that they would like to fill. And I can get the police chief to come in here and make the same type of compelling argument, fill the lieutenant, fill the sergeant, fill the police officers. Outside of public safety, the rest of the departments, they have way more stress than police and fire because of the draconian cuts that they've had to go through. And they have people working a gazillion hours and management working overtime they don't get compensated for. So I can parade each department head through here and make cases. So we've done what you've asked us to do, council. I'm very comfortable with the recommendation. If you're not, we'll go do something else. And that's what I ask. We're gonna come into next year's budget. By the way, those 23 other positions that are frozen, we have to make decisions about filling them as well. Sorry for being a little bit passionate there, but we don't have the revenue sources that other cities do to satisfy the appetite to be fully staffed and everything. So if we're not going to get those revenues, we have to cut back on how we spend money.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. Yeah,
Sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Although this is posited as an 8-month data collection period, if 2 weeks in we don't like it, does that engine require any workup period of preventative maintenance to come back aboard or to staff it? Is it, we can turn the lights on at any time on this thing?
Yeah, it'll be maintained.
And council, if I can interject, Mr. Mayor, members of council, if we're in 2 months or 3 months and all of a sudden we're having a surge of calls and the situation's different, I'm going to direct her to go staff the darn thing. I'll come right back to council right away. We'll put it right back to what it was. But mind you, our call volume is down noticeably.
And this does not put our residents at risk of, or any additional risk of using privatized ambulance services, because those do incur the cost, right? That's an $1,800 trip if we go to the privatized service.
That's not an option on the table right
now.
now.
No, I'm just saying, like, this plan does not increase any of the exposure to that or the mode of transportation, because that's one that directly, especially as we support our seniors, they would perceive. So, thank you.
All right. Would someone like to make a recommendation or a motion?
Yes.
Are there any other ones of these that we have? So there's a change to the fire marshal one. Would now you're recommending that we fill that now and not wait for the retirement?
Yes. So by doing that, we won't achieve we will unlikely achieve the $1 million reduction this year. It'll probably be closer to 850 or 800. I would like your authorization to fill that.
Scott, now why have we changed?
Because it's contingent upon a battalion chief retiring when that person said they were, and that person hasn't worked much in the last year. So I can't gamble and roll the dice and hope somebody retires when they say they will. I'm sorry for erring.
So just when I look at these recommendations 1 through 9, staff's recommendation continues to be 1 through 9, with the exception of item 3, filling that immediately, not waiting for the planned battalion chief retirement.
That's correct,
Okay.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
In theory, you get a fire prevention by having a fire marshal there that should, in theory,
Yes.
reduce a call. And we rate 2 fire marshals? Only one?
By the way, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I forgot to make this point. One of the reasons El Segundo has so few calls is because we do an outstanding job in terms of complying with the building code, the way we build buildings. Our homeowners do a great job, even with an older housing stock, in maintaining their homes, taking care of it. We do a really good job on the prevention side. So compliments to our fire department, to our development services staff, and our residents and the businesses that operate here. So we do a good job there. That's why the call volume is so low. So I want to throw that out there as well. This is not a community that has an unusually high number of calls due to faulty building practices.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. Councilmember Giroux.
Are we ready to?
Yeah.
All right, so is this a matter of making a motion to approve staff's recommendation with the exception of number 3?
Yes, that's what's on the table, yeah.
So
So moved?
So moved.
Okay. Do we have a second? Yeah, of course.
Can I ask one more question? And this is not a sort of split the baby, this is a little bit more for the people on TV. It makes no sense to go from 14 to 13 because you can't run that truck with 2 people, right? I mean, this goes in increments of 1 crew. If you run on a truck, you're losing three staff. There's nothing to be gained by having, if you went to 12 people on shift, you're not gonna tuck that 1 person on the ladder truck instead. Because and the only reason I bring that up is if it's truly an OSHA mandated 2 in, 2 out, I mean, is there another place for them to?
We're not at risk of not complying with OSHA.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Temp. We have a first. Do we have a second?
First, second?
Okay, second. Any further discussion, comments? No. Okay, we'll go to a vote. Madam Clerk, please.
Councilmember Giroux?
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol?
No.
Councilmember Perstuck?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel?
No.
Mayor Boyles?
Yes.
Okay, so your vote is 3-2 passes.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Chief Lee. Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. All right, we are on to reports. City Clerk.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
City Treasurer, is Mr. Robinson on? I don't think so. Okay. Councilmember Giroux.
Nothing from me, please. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Nichol.
Pass.
Councilmember Perstick.
I just want to give a shout out to all the staff that helped with the frolic and the Halloween activities to keep our kids safe. And then I just wanted to remind people that applications are still being accepted for the DEI Commission. So please get your applications in. I think it's open till the 12th, I believe, but don't quote me on that one.
Thank you, ma'am. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, a few things coming up. Annual ceremony celebrating the South Bay Workforce Investment Board, which is an important part of helping people get placed in new positions, and their one stop is next door in Hawthorne. They've been a great ally to us. I want to congratulate the City of Compton on their youth build opening, which performs a similar function through the private industry in a public-private partnership in Compton, which they invited us to be a part of. We have transportation meets next week, as does aging and homelessness, all in the COG, 3 things that we take a great deal of time and effort into. So those task forces will meet, and that's all for now.
Thank you, sir. Speaking of COG, we had our Board of Directors meeting last week, Thursday. We had Mayor Bill Brand of Redondo Beach. Bill Brand's been really vocal against Sacramento's attempt to continue to strip local control on housing. I mentioned before on the dais that there is a Neighborhood Voices Initiative, which is a constitutional amendment to make zoning and land use locally controlled. In order for that to get on the ballot in November, it requires about 1.5 million signatures to qualify. It's a response to recently proposed or passed housing bills that require unlimited density and or lot splits, like SB 9, to override local zoning ordinances without an affordable housing component. If it passed by voters, you would amend Article 11 of the California Constitution, transferring power for zoning and land use from Sacramento back to local agencies. By the way, that would be retroactive, and it would null and void SB 9. It'll cost something around $10 to $12 million just to get on the ballot. So you can learn more by visiting stopsacramento.org, and I think until it gets on the ballot, we can continue to talk about this. Mr. Hensley, is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. In a similar vein, we got a presentation on the housing crisis, a global problem. Sharon Byrne, Vice President for the United Nations Association of Santa Barbara and the Tri-Counties, gave an overview about how major corporations like Blackstone and the like, and foreign governments are aggressively acquiring housing subdivisions and buildings, redeveloping the properties, raising the rent, and or displacing tenants. And it was fascinating. We think we have a problem in LA. I mean, Berlin has a massive problem. Tokyo, London, it's a global problem. This is leading to increased real estate prices and homelessness locally and globally. And you can find that if you go to southbaycities.org You can find that presentation. It's fascinating. I forwarded it to everyone up here on the dais. And another good news related to homelessness, the Board of Directors of COG, which I chair, approved the South Bay COG's recommendation to LA County to designate the COG's allocation of $1.9 million in homeless program innovation funds, and that will include a Torrance interim shelter project similar to what's happened with Pallet in Redondo Beach. It includes the Hawthorne LA CADA outreach and interim beds. It includes Redondo Hermosa Beach homeless court expansion and interim beds. I've talked about this before. I went to Redondo Beach. I saw their homeless court. It meets once a month. It's fascinating. It's right next to the police department. Their whole intent is to get people's records cleared so that they can qualify for homes more quickly. So they're expanding that program in a couple of the beach cities. Beach cities dedicated case management services. Scott, I didn't know if that included us or not. I know it does include us, that one. Great. And Inglewood dedicated homeless services coordinator, also Gardena homeless plan and services coordinator, also Rancho Palos Verdes homeless plan. It's good. We've had a homeless plan for, I think, 4 or 5 years now, so we're well ahead of some of our peer cities in that regard. And then Client Aid and Home Share South Bay. Home Share South Bay is a program for people to share parts of their homeless seniors. And also coming up, the 21st Annual General Assembly will be March 24th. I believe it's still going to be in Carson at their big complex down there. And that's all I have related to COG. Yeah,
Mr. Mayor, one thing, redistricting is our opportunity to weigh in with the state on redistricting, if you'd like to touch on that.
Yeah, there's a commission on that. I haven't been following it that closely as of late. They're looking at all the different districts, even considering part of Supervisor Hahn's district differently. Have you seen the latest on that, Mayor Pro Tem?
No changes to us in the current maps, except in the assembly. We would return to the South Bay district in the assembly.
To Marisucci, potentially, or whoever's in that role. Thank you. All right, City Attorney reports.
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, a few things. The police chief did make me aware after the discussion on the coyote management plan that he and his team are going to be meeting tomorrow with representatives of the Department of Fish and Wildlife to talk about the upcoming town hall that you heard about. So they're coming here tomorrow. We're going to take very seriously the concerns articulated and get the word out to the community. We'll be sure to use our website and so on. But again, for those who are watching, please call the city manager's office if you have any questions or concerns. We'll be glad to help you. Okay, hey, before I get into the agenda forecast, I wanted to point out 2 exciting things that are in the news. Did anybody mention the charters? So, all right, normally you do that, but I can do it because we're very excited. It's all over the media, on our website, the release that's out there. So the LA Chargers,
That's the planning, is it going through the planning commission?
it's going to planning commission and city council. So it'll go to the planning commission on, no.
Don't we swallow our shoes on this?
No, I'm gonna no. I was trying to share something that was good. Okay. It's gonna come before the planning commission and the city council, the land use applications, and it's an exciting opportunity. They do have to comply with our zoning and all of that, but November 18th, planning commission, December 7th and 21st, city council. So exciting possibility. And then earlier today, I was out with a couple council members and some staff touring the Topgolf facility. Very exciting. The construction's on schedule, and that should open to the public in May of 2022. April 15th. April 15th. May, April, spring. I should say spring. Okay, the next council meeting in the chambers here will be on November 16th. A variety of items, council, coming to you. We have a number of topics. Recreation Park Needs Assessment Report. You asked for that several months ago. It's gone to the Rec and Park Commission. It'll come to you. That's exciting. We'll have an update on the Candy Cane Lane situation. The Hillcrest and Pine stop sign. We've done the property owner survey, and that'll come to you with a recommendation. And a variety of other items. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. We're going to close this evening in memory of a resident that passed recently. And that's Tom Curtis. Tom, Mr. El Segundo Curtis, passed away October 23rd, 2021. He was born November 6th, 1938. Tom was a resident of El Segundo for over 80 years. He dedicated 30 years to working for the City of El Segundo Public Works Water Division. He was known for his never-ending support of girls bobby sock softball and famous for his air horns he would blow at the softball games. He's survived by his wife, Bonnie Julie Curtis, daughter Kristen Poulos, George, Carrie Carpenter, Brian, and grandkids Preston, Bo, Dallas, and Gavin, several siblings, and many nieces and nephews. May you rest in peace, Tom. We're adjourned.